Hello everybody, and welcome to this video tutorial that's going to show you how to upgrade a B92M Android dual SIM mobile phone. If you recognize this model, that's what you've got. 2 SIMs, SD card, it has a 720p screen, and this particular model has 512 megs of RAM, although there are other models out there now with 1 GB of memory. The procedure is to upgrade. What we're going to do is today we're going to upgrade to 4.12 Jelly Bean, and we're going to also root the phone, and we're also going to apply a GPS fix. The B92 is notoriously bad with GPS, really it just doesn't work. There's a guy in France who's made a small adapter plate extension to the aerial for the GPS unit, and he's managed to get better results out of the GPS. Somehow another guy, I think also on a French forum somewhere, I bumped into his GPS patch. I've never been able to apply it, and I managed to get it done just yesterday, and it gave me registration of a few satellites, and for the first time ever it actually gave me a lock without using the Wi-Fi positioning from Google and so on. So the main thing is, if we go over here to the screen, is you're going to download a link, and it's going to contain all these files. You're going to unpack it. You'll probably need to download WinRAR to unrar the package, and you're going to end up with all these folders. The first thing that we've got here is the USB drivers. Then we've got the software to put the firmware onto the phone. Then we've got the firmware itself. Then we've got a patch for root and a patch for GPS. And for those of you with a 1 GB model, there is special instructions in this little document here that tell you to go and copy these files and do these things and so on and so on, and you put them into this folder here, and you again manage to do the update with a special EBR1 file that's designed for 1 GB. Now I'm not going to do that on this phone because it's 512 and I haven't got a 1 gig, so I've never used this, but I found it and I thought that for those of you that want to give it a go, the idea is that you read the little text document and you use the flash tool to burn it with this EBR1 file that's here in the archive, this one here. So with that file it should patch it in. Then apparently the instructions go that you need to factory reset the phone because it still gives you a false reading that it's got 512 megs of RAM, and then it shows you after a reset, it shows you the 1 gig. So step 1, we're installing the drivers. You've got a 64-bit installation and a 32-bit installation, and really just run this, answer yes to everything, connect the phone up, and let Windows, I've already done it so I'm not showing you this step, let Windows find the device and ultimately configure it so that it's recognized to the system. Once you've 100% done that step, we move over to the flash tool. Now this is the program. All we do is run this flash tool exe, and there we have it. Now the idea behind this program is that quite simply we load up this scatter file, and the scatter file is inside your ROM folder that I showed you before, just one level up, and there's the scatter file. And the idea is that the Android operating system is made out of chunks of sections of data, and you have logos, the main system for Android, and so on and so on. I'm not 1000% conversant with what everything does on this screen. What I do know is that it's pointing to files, and in this case what we're going to do next is going to save us sort of 2 steps. We want to root the phone and at the same time do a firmware upgrade on it. So to prepare the phone for rooting, if we take a look at the root option, the idea is that we take this recovery image, which is the partition that the phone boots from. When we hold down the power button and the up arrow, we end up going into a special little partition. If you haven't got one configured, you get an error, but if you have got one configured, you get a little mini operating system. And in this case, this recovery image contains the Clockwork Mod recovery software, and this file here is the Super User app to upgrade the phone to Super User. Now, to root the phone, so what we're going to do is we're going to copy this recovery IMG, and I'm not going to use the original one that came with the B92. I'm going to rename it, just get it out of the way without erasing it, just put a few X's at the end, and by doing that I now have the power to paste, and it doesn't clash with the original file. So all I've done here, the file names are identical. It is case sensitive. If you ever do this trick with anything else, make sure you have the correct names of the files, including the case. And now the idea is that this procedure is going to go ahead, but instead it's going to use a different recovery area that's going to prepare the phone for boot up to root it. Again, this is just 2 steps down into one. If you don't want to do this, you don't copy it, and you just continue as normal with what I'm going to do next. Now, to prepare the phone to boot it up for programming, we'll remove the battery, which we already have done, and we're going to prepare ourselves to plug it back in, and also the USB cable. So the idea is the following: on the software, we click on the download button. For 10 seconds or so this program will wait, and during that time we must plug in the USB and then slide the battery in for power. So I'm going to do that right now. Let me hit download. I always get an error, like always, and I know that it's okay with this installation, this upgrade, so I'm going to say yes to that. I'm going to go over to the phone, I'm going to plug it in, I'm going to slide in the battery, and we're not really going to see anything on the screen, and we should be careful that we don't disconnect or anything like that whilst we're doing this procedure. I think that could really mess things up. I don't want to try to see if it does, but doing things now, as in leave the phone alone and don't touch it in case anything happens. But what you can notice already from the software, it's picked up the phone, it's connected to it, and right now it's doing the firmware upgrade. It's going to take about 4 minutes or 5 minutes or so to do the upgrade. So we'll just leave it alone and let it do the process. I will probably fast forward this bit of the video to save some time. The sequence is coming to an end. We're going to get an OK window, and then we're going to hear a bit of USB activity. Just leave it alone whilst it does that, and there's the OK. And then we'll notice that the phone goes into this I'm charging mode. Now, disconnect the USB. Now we're going to switch the phone on. Now the first time I did this, I actually got stuck on the Android logo, and I did the process again and it worked. So I don't know if that's going to happen to you, but you're looking to get onto this little Android logo, and that means that it's pretty much en route to booting up. Now the first thing that's going to happen when the phone boots up is, well, it's going to be in Chinese. So I'll show you how to get it out of Chinese and put it into English. So there it is, 4.12 Jelly Bean. With the Google Now option, I've got 2 SIM cards, so it's asking me something. I know that I should press on the left hand side, and I click on the on the Android menu, and over here on the bottom right, the square icon with the sliders is the settings. As you can see, everything is in Chinese. We scroll down until we find the A symbol, and we click on that, which represents language and so on. And right at the top, we click on the first entry, and then you'll see the language list. We choose English, and there you go. That's the first change. We also switch off the Chinese keyboard, and we're ready to do the next step. So what we need to do now is we need to copy onto the phone two files. This is going to be the GPS patch and the root patch. So we're going to say yes to turn on the USB, and we're going to go back into our files, and we go into root, we open that up, and let me just check something. Does that have a... Sorry, I put a memory card in there, so I'm showing up two disks. We want to copy it onto the phone memory, so we open this one up and not your normal storage, and we copy root user. We don't extract it, we just do a copy. By the way, if you do need to extract it, this is a .zip, but I use WinRAR, which will do zip and RAR. And we copy the GPS one, okay, and we say copy here, and there you go. Now we basically turn off and unplug, and now really what we're going to do is just going to pull the battery, and we're going to switch the phone on, and at the same time we're going to hold the power, the volume up key, and we click on that and click on this. We're going to see the Android boot up screen, and I'm going to let go of power but not volume up until I see it go black and not show the Android logo, which I'm hoping will be soon. And as you can see, it hasn't gone onto the Android logo screen, and if I just let go now, I'm hoping that the recovery partition will boot up, and there it is. Clockwork Mod Recovery 6.01. And to control this, it's not touchscreen, the back button works. You use the volume up and down to choose an entry from the list, and you choose the power button to select it. So in this case, we're going to go into the second option, install zip from SD card, and we're going to then choose the first option by pressing the power button, which is choose zip from SD card, just in case you can't read it off the video. And now you see the list. We have the GPS and the root user. We're going to go for root user first. We're going to choose it, then we get a menu of lots of options of no's, and we have to choose the one that says yes, and that's that one here, and which is okay. We're going to get a little bit of text at the bottom, and basically looking at that, there's no error messages, and the zip has been installed. Goes back to the menu. We choose again, choose the first one, choose a zip file from the SD card, and we choose the GPS mod, and we apply that by pressing the OK there, and then back to the power button to choose that again. And again, that patches in a new GPS config file. I'm really not sure what that config file is doing, but I have managed to test it for a few hours, and for the first time I did get GPS coordinates, and I did get satellites registering, and that has completed unlocking and the GPS install. So we're going to hit the back until we go to the top menu where we have reboot system now. We can just do it from there, and there you go. The phone's going to reboot, and it's going to print a little update message, and there it is. So again, if you were doing this on the 1 gig model, you'd dig out the right files from this archive, you'll put them into the ROM and overwrite any existing files, and do the whole process again, and then you need to do a reset on the phone for it to register the right amount of memory. We're still in English now, saying searching, and we click and we drag, and we are now GPS patched and Now, I'm not going to show you the GPS stuff working because I've not even connected the phone over to Wi-Fi and downloaded a little display tool to show the GPS info. There's another tool that I use called Keep GPS Alive, because every time you go out of the maps or every time you go in and out of software that uses the GPS switches off. And sometimes I like to keep it on so that software gives it enough time to start up and get a reading. Also, if the screen goes to sleep, the GPS also switches off. So maybe I don't need to keep that tool running. I was running it before just to see if I can get some life out of it. I think it was called Keep My GPS Alive or something like that. And another tool that I use is called Big Font. It's a little tool that when you obviously Android, this is a 720p screen, and when you use Google Mail, you used to get these huge, large, chunks of text that really make it as useful as a 2-inch phone. So that tool allows you to hack all the text fonts down in size, and you get a lot more information on the screen with your subject lines, and the resolution of the screen is actually quite decent, and it does a good job of being crisp enough to still see, for it to still be readable. Now, there's been reports on many devices of 4.12 doing a bit of a battery drain. Now, like I said, I haven't had time to test it, and I hope it's not too much of an issue. Things that I have read include a lot of people just giving false readings that the one app that they use the most is the one that's consuming the most amount of power. It looks like the phone is somehow just draining constantly. Some people blame it on the way Wi-Fi sleeps, whether it's not listening to broadcast packets, because if it is, it will just keep the the Wi-Fi busy when it doesn't sort of need to, and all sorts of shenanigans, including that if you're running Google Now, that for some person claimed that everything went back to normal as soon as they stopped the Google Now location positioning and whatever it was doing. So I've read a whole bunch of miscellaneous stuff. None of it is coherent enough to say it's the one problem, other than the fact that obviously the ROM is doing something not right. But I've gone ahead with it, and I'm going to be testing it out. Maybe I'll do another video to show the pitfalls if there are any. But at least we've got proof that it's doable, and a lot of people get confused on how to do this. And I don't blame them, because the instructions a lot of the time for the China-based phones that I'm finding at the moment are in French and English. So good old Google Translate doing the job to convert instructions over to something useful. And I've decided to make the video just to put it all together and do stuff. The camera, this is something that maybe some of you could help me with. I haven't got the original B92 firmware anymore. Actually, I don't even know how to make a backup of one, and if anyone out there does have a backup or has restored their phone from one ROM to another or something, and you have a link for a good YouTube video or page or something, do post it in the comments. I'm interested in knowing how can anybody supply me a B92 4.0 something ROM or 4.1, a downgrade from this. And also, the tool that they use to do the backup, and the I think it would be the flash tool. I guess that would be to put it all back together again. So your feedback on that is highly useful to me. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you found it useful. Do give the video a like if it's been up your street and it makes sense now to you, whatever it is I've been talking about. And thank you very much for watching. Take care.